Hello, good afternoon or evening or morning, whichever time you're watching this from wherever. My name is Paul Wheatley and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about my thoughts on the Ortofon phono cartridges 2M series. This is my first video, so I'm not particularly familiar with making videos or how to do clever sort of graphics and things, but the Ortofon 2M series of moving magnet cartridges have been around now for quite some time, probably around 10 years or so, and I've had quite a bit of experience playing with them, different setups, different turntables, and I'll be talking more in future videos about different turntable phono stages, different comparisons, and all of this just comes from experience of listening to them, and of course these are my ideas and feelings about them based on my preferences and observations, really. So the title of this video is, why is the Ortofon 2M bronze better than the 2M blue? The other way around. Why is the 2M blue better than the 2M bronze? Better than is obviously subjective, but there are some things that I've learned about the Ortofon 2M range of cartridges which I think are quite interesting to share. Just got one here on a head shell. That's a 2M mono, actually, which I use for mono records. Actually, that's a 78 tip on this one, and I've mounted that on the Ortofon, if you can see, the Ortofon head shell SH4, which are quite a nice head shell. They're fairly solid, not particularly expensive comparatively, but they seem to do a good job. So the 2M range starts with the red, which is the bonded elliptical design, which means that the stylus is glued onto the cantilever and it's a diamond tip rather than it being a solid diamond. If we move up in the range to the 2M blue, you get a nude elliptical stylus, so we don't get any bonding, so there's less mass at the tip, basically meaning you can track the record more easily and create a better tracking, also a better sound quality as well. So why is the 2M blue superior to the bronze? The bronze is the higher one up in the range. It uses a much higher quality diamond, which is a fine line diamond cut to a much sharper tip, and it also has a better quality cartridge body, using different materials to the blue and red. So it's interesting to think that in theory it should be better, and I suppose in terms of sound quality it is a little bit. So in terms of sound, it has a wider stereo field, sort of goes more to the edges of the left and right speaker. It also has a finer treble, so the treble is more extended, it's a little bit more delineated, it's a little bit more textured and layered, with a little bit more of that air feeling that they sometimes talk about on these forums, where you can hear a little bit more sort of tss and a little bit more movement around the voices and instruments. The bass is also a bit cleaner. It's actually a little bit less forward than the blue in terms of the bass, but the bass is a little bit, again, a little bit more textured, a bit more layered. But these are only subtle differences. And on some tracks, on some records, you might find the blue to actually sound fuller or maybe a little bit better in some ways. And that really has been my experience. The blue has a more solid sound stage. It doesn't sound quite as blurry as the bronze, which is just a little, it can sound a little bit sort of out of center. The blue also has the advantage, and this is the big one really, that you can track it at 2 grams and stay within Ortofon's recommended vertical tracking force. So the bronze tends to track a little bit lighter, around about 1.7 is the maximum they recommend. However, the problem comes in that the 1.7 gram vertical tracking force, no matter how carefully you set up the alignment using different methods, it does not track high volume passages, loud or hot presses. So anything that's sort of cut above, say, a 12 decibel range is going to possibly trigger distortion in the 2M bronze. Now the blue isn't any better particularly, but the blue can be tracked at 2 grams, and that means that that distortion is overcome. So you won't be finding yourself getting crackle, getting distortion on the 2M blue where you will get it on the bronze. That's not down necessarily to stylus tip, although I will do a video talking more about those. But it's basically down to the fact that the 2M blue can be tracked heavier. Now you could buy a bronze and track it at 2 grams or 2.1, which I think is actually probably where the distortion stops, at 2.1. But you're running it at over half a gram over what the recommended manufacturer's best setting is. I don't know if that's okay. Long term, I don't know what that might do to the suspension, but I prefer to run a cartridge that sounds arguably better on a lot of vinyl within its manufacturer's specification. So the 2M blue for me is the sweet sort of spot in the range, really. I have run 2M blacks, which are the top end of the range with the Shibata tip, but I found the 2M black combo to be very noisy. All of the 2M cartridges tend to have their Achilles heel a little bit, apart from this playing loud passages, which is a problem throughout the range. Their Achilles heel really is that they do pick up a little bit more surface noise and clicks and pops than some cartridges do. I think some of that is down to the fact that they're highly neutral and probably have a better mid-range, a little bit more forward in a way. But you put that sort of issue with the Shibata tip, and the finer tips pick up more scratches, pick up more noise, pick up more ticks and pops, and in my opinion it became more of a nuisance than an enjoyment. And again, the blue doesn't do that so much. It's elliptical, it's much more forgiving, and it's the pick of the range for me. You can track it at 2 grams, and you can play any record and it'll give you a neutral tone and a fantastic sound quality, and I really rate it. I have got one. I haven't got one to show you. It's on the turntable at the moment. The turntable I'm running it on, I've used them on Rager Planner 3s and 6s. I've run it on a project before, but it didn't really let it sort of work on there at its best. It wasn't until I got it on the Technics 1200G that I really found that it was capable of, you know, quite a lot more sound quality than you might imagine at its price point. So yeah, I highly recommend the 2M blue. I prefer the sound of the bronze a little bit, but for all its issues and problems, if you want to actually hear where it struggles, if you get something like the Hi-Fi News test record, there are some bands on the inside of side 1 which are 12 decibel, 14, 16 and 18 I think, and you'll hear how it buzzes and mistracks. I know that most cartridges will, when you certainly get to the 16 and 18 ones perhaps, but the bronze will struggle even on the 14, which really is not good. So yeah, just any thoughts on that? I can always post up more videos if you're really enjoying this one. Thank you.